much. I'm Jenny Beth Martin with Tea Party Patriots Action, and I am so glad to be here in Maine working on the Save America Act, which is a simple piece of legislation to make sure that we have only American citizens voting in American elections and that we show voter ID. Pretty simple. 80% of Americans plus agree with these provisions. So, to kick the show off, we are going to have Rob Brown come up and lead us in the prayer.
Please bow your heads with me and join me in prayer. Most gracious Heavenly Father, the God of our founders, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we humbly come before you today and ask you to grace your presence here in this meeting. We pray for clarity of communication, clarity of understanding, and Father, that you would ignite our hearts and our minds to work hard for the cause of righteousness. We pray for those who are in leadership over us already, from the president on down. We ask for protection on them. Pray for our troops who are in harm's way, that you grant grace into that. And Father, we just pray for clarity of effort in all that is done. Father, we ask all of this in the gracious name of Jesus, our Savior. Amen.
Thank you very much, Rob. And now, Frank Minitillo, will you please come up and lead us in the pledge? I'm catching you off guard, and I figured no problem with this. While the group puts you out.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through what the program will be today, because I always think when I'm sitting in an audience and I don't know what's happening, I want to know what's next. So I'm going to roughly tell you, because we don't have programs for you, and then we will get started in full. So we're going to introduce Sharon Bemis, who is with the Election Integrity Network that Cleta Mitchell founded, and she is going to speak. Then we are going to have Frank come up and speak about the Maine Election Integrity Network. And then if any state reps or elected officials are here, we'll recognize them. And then we're going to allow candidates to introduce themselves and speak very briefly. And then we will get started with the rest of the program, really talking in much more depth about the Save America Act. And the great Scott Pressler will speak, I will speak, then we'll have question and answer. Then when we finish with all of that, we're going to line up back there, and for anyone who would like to, and you can get photos with Scott and me, and you'll have a chance to speak to us individually. So if we don't get to your question during the Q&A, we'll still be able to get to it at the very end. All right, so we're here because we're working on the Save America Act. This legislation started out when the founder of the Election Integrity Network, Cleta Mitchell, and I were on a call with Senator Mike Lee. And Cleta was complaining about a problem in the state of Arizona. You see, in the state of Arizona, it's a border state. And they passed a proposition to ensure that you had to show proof of citizenship to register to vote. Pretty simple. It passed in the statewide ballot initiative, and then they got sued. And the suit went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court came back and said, you cannot bypass the National Voter Registration Act process. So for those of you who are older, and we have some younger people, that thing, the National Voter Registration Act, is the NVRA. And we think of it as motor voter, the older people. The younger people don't even know that we did not used to register to vote when we got our driver's license. But in that process, there is a form, and the form is the same across the entire country. It has a checkbox, and you affirm that you are a citizen, but it doesn't require proof of citizenship. The Supreme Court said that Arizona had to accept that form for voter registration because the National Voter Registration Act, motor voter law, is federal law, and that means it is supreme law of the land. That was the right decision because federal law is supreme law of the land, and they did not create law from the bench, which I, as a constitutional conservative, do not want them doing. So, I've known about this problem since 2021, think it's crazy. The way that Arizona dealt with the problem is this. They said, okay, if you show proof of citizenship to register to vote, then you get a ballot. And your ballot can be for president, Senate, Congress, governor, lieutenant governor, all the way down to the lowest office level. And in Arizona, it's a precinct committee man. If, however, you did not show proof of citizenship, you still can get a ballot. And your ballot will be for president, Senate, and Congress. Yeah, exactly. Isn't that crazy? So, Cleta was explaining this to Senator Mike Lee, and I texted him, and I said, will you please make a bill to fix this? The Supreme Court didn't fix it, and that's fine, but Congress needs to fix this. And it was 2024 in January. I was like, we need to fix this before the November election. Let's get on it. So he said he would. At some point during the call, I unmuted myself, we got up on a soapbox and told what I thought about it. And he worked on it. And he and Congressman Chip Roy wrote the legislation. In the meantime, as we began writing the legislation, and Cleta Mitchell has been heavily involved in this from the very first phone call. Our organization, Tea Party Patriots Action, did polling on it, and we found that 80% plus of Americans agreed. Only American citizens should vote in American elections. Plain and simple, pretty easy. Yes. That's right. Now, one thing I've learned as I work with members of Congress is that they love a good poll. So, at another meeting I was at, Speaker Mike Johnson was coming in and speaking, so I printed out that poll and I had it and I gave it to him. And he's like, oh, this is really impressive. And I said, will you co-sponsor the legislation? And he said, well, I need to read it, but yes, in theory. And he did. He co-sponsored it. Then he told President Trump about it while he was still running for office. And President Trump announced support of the bill from Mar-a-Lago. This is still in 2024. Then it passed, so then the bill was created, and the original bill was the SAVE Act. And that was for requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote. It passed in 2024 in the House, and it went over to the Senate where it dropped like a lead balloon and went nowhere. So in 2025, the House passed it again, the SAVE Act. And it went back over to the Senate where it dropped again like a lead balloon and it went nowhere. So in August of last year, we did a bus tour, the only Citizens Vote bus tour. And we went from California to North Carolina, and then I should do it this way then. California to North Carolina, and Wisconsin to Washington, D.C., advocating for only American citizens voting in American elections. And we just were trying to make sure that the legislation did not die. Then in January, on January 1st of this year, Scott Pressler started posting about it on social media, and it really helped amplify the messaging. And he'll talk more about that. And the House of Representatives picked the bill back up again, and Congressman Stiles from Wisconsin was involved in this. They added voter ID to it. It became the Save America Act because President Trump renamed it. They passed it again in the House, and it went to the Senate, where finally they picked it up and did a pretend talking filibuster debate that wasn't really a talking filibuster, and it's just sort of fizzled over in the Senate. So we're still working because we want to see this legislation passed this year before the elections. And President Trump wants it passed. And 80% plus of Americans want it passed. So that's kind of the history that brings you up to speed on where we are today. We'll talk about calls to action, the importance of it, the craziness of it, as we go forward. And not the craziness of the bill, but the craziness of the process itself. And give you very meaningful action items. So now Sharon Bemis is going to come up. She's going to talk about both the Save America Act, Maine election integrity, and the Election Integrity Network, which Cleta founded and Sharon is the executive director of. Is that right? President of. So come on up, Mrs. President.
Hi, everybody. So first, Sharon Bemis, President of Election Integrity Network, and I'm one of you. I'm a Mainer. I live in Somerset County, Red County, and proud to be a Mainer. Lived here almost all of my life. And I worked on the Trump campaign in 2020, and then I was back here in 2022, and I did election integrity for the RNC for the whole state. So some of you I've met, and some of you I've talked to. Others of you have probably received an email from me or a communication. I did a short stint at the Maine GOP as well, so a little bit of experience here in Maine. But now, as Jenny Beth said, I run the Election Integrity Network, which is a national organization. So our goal and our mission statement is to put permanent infrastructure, election integrity infrastructure in every state of the country to work with citizen volunteers on election integrity and making sure that we push election integrity and election integrity rules and make sure that all of the election administrators are following those rules. I'm also a former town clerk here in the state of Maine. The first election I ever administered was in 2018, which all of you who have been here since 2018 remember that's the first year that we had ranked choice voting. So my first foray into administering an election was ranked choice voting, which was an interesting challenge to begin. So I've been here working on election integrity basically since 2018, and just love working here in the state of Maine. We all love this state so much, and we all want to stay here in this beautiful state, but it gets harder every year with the laws that are passed and the taxes that we pay. And so I just want you to know I'm with you 100% with Maine. And one of our priorities in 2024 was getting a Maine EIN group together. So what we do is we provide resources from a national level to our state organizations in all 50 states. We are at 35, 36 states right now, but by the end of this year, we're gonna be at 50. So we'll have organizations in all 50 states. We care very deeply. Obviously, Jenny Beth did a great job of summarizing why election integrity is important and why the Save America Act is so important to our organization. Obviously, Cleta Mitchell, who's our founder and chair, has worked very closely with Jenny Beth, and also 80 or 90 other organizations that have signed on to help with the Save America Act Coalition. In February, we sent a letter to Senator Thune and asked him to pass the Save America Act. We've been working very hard on trying to get citizens like yourselves to speak about why it's so important to have the Save America Act. And about a month or two ago, time kind of melds these days, but I know with Senator Collins, one of the first times I've actually ever talked to her, and I spoke to her about the Save America Act, and one of her concerns that I think you all need to be aware of and you all need to be thinking about was, you remember last November when we had the voter ID bill on the ballot, you remember how the Secretary of State changed the wording and changed the message and basically forwarded that whole effort. I think Senator Collins needs to hear from all of you that we do still want voter ID in the state of Maine, that wasn't a referendum on us not wanting voter ID. It was a referendum on the fact that they changed the wording and confused it so much that it became about absentee ballots. And I think, you know, obviously a state with a lot of seniors, a lot of veterans, and a lot of people who travel is a huge state. We like being able to vote absentee, and so we didn't want that to go away. But I think that got muddled in the message because it was really about voter ID. So we'd love to have you, we're gonna pass out these flyers. We'd love to have you use this QR code or go to our website and sign the Citizens Pledge that says that you want the Save America Act to pass. We will share with Senator Collins to let her know that there are Mainers who care about the Save America Act and who want the Save America Act, and not to listen to that ballot referendum decision from November on voter ID because that wasn't a fair fight. And then what we're gonna do is, if you're wondering what will we do with your names, because we're a national organization and I'm very familiar, I'm a Mainer, I get it. I know how we feel about, you know, signing your name up to something, where's that name going? So I'm gonna tell you where that name's gonna go. my team who's here with me, the first thing we're going to do is share your information with the Maine EIN group. Frank's on the cabinet. He'll tell you about what they do. And the only thing you're going to hear from us is that ways that you can possibly get engaged and the resources you can use to learn more about elections, learn more about election integrity, and get involved when you can, right? And I know we're all very busy, but these are very important items. Obviously, passing the Save America Act is critical to our election that's coming up in November. And I want to make sure you all take advantage of the opportunity to get involved if you want to. And my team's here, Sarah Vieira and Andy Mangione. All three of us are happy to answer any questions you have about election integrity. I'm probably better to ask about Maine election integrity than Sarah's from Rhode Island and Andy's from Kentucky. But we're all here to help, and we're all here to provide resources. So we'd love to talk to you, love to have you engage. And then Frank's going to talk a little bit about how you can get involved in Maine EIN. But the Save America Act is very important. I just want to make sure you all know that. And just happy to be here, happy to speak to all you. And super excited to have Jenny Beth and Scott in town. It's huge to have them here. I'm so grateful that you came out and showed them that we care, and that, go home and talk to your friends and your family about this. We all know other mayors who probably couldn't make it here today, but we can talk to them. Let's share that information with them, educate them on the Save America Act. This flyer has a little bit of information about the Save America Act and the facts about it. If you have questions, these guys are going to talk a lot about the Save America Act, but there are a lot of opposition things that come up that are not true. So we're happy to dispel those things. We're happy to help you be better educated about it. But really, I just wanted to thank you all for coming out. And again, I'm from Somerset County, so not far from here, and love to meet each one of you and just say hello. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Sharon, thank you so much. Thank you to the Election Integrity Network. And understand, both Sarah and Andy are here from Rhode Island and from Kentucky, and they care enough about this issue and enough about Maine to be here today as well. So make sure when we finish, you get to meet and interact with them if you don't know them already. Now we're going to have Frank Minatillo. Yes, I got it. I didn't even look at my card. Come up and speak. He's with the Maine Election Integrity Network, and he's on the cabinet for that. So Frank, come on up and give a brief explanation about what you guys do.
Specifically in Maine, not just the national group.
Okay. Yeah, Sharon used to be part of our group, but then somebody offered her a real good position in Washington, and she took it. We don't see her too much anymore.
I still live here.
Yeah, no, but she still lives here. Remember that. Okay, she's still a resident. But anyway, Maine Election Integrity Network. I'm a cabinet member. Our fearless leader, Patrick Davis, who a lot of you probably know, is not here. He was supposed to be, and we don't know where he is, so I'm kind of stepping in at the last minute here. But I'd like to get, anybody who needs any kind of training in poll watching or poll working, especially poll watching, we're going to be ramping that up pretty soon. It's real important. There's a lot of things to look for. I happen to be working the Bangor Arena for the last 2 years, and I watch everything going on there. But we got a lot going on with nursing home type environments, with absentee ballots, UOCAVA, and Sharon's the one that originally told me what UOCAVA was. I had no idea what that meant. But I learned a lot from her on that. But there's a lot of hanky-panky that goes on there. Not just in Maine, everywhere across the country. We're just concentrating on Maine, national issues, and you talk to Sharon's group. All right, but anybody, I got some cards here. Anybody want to talk to me, I'll hang around for a while, and I'll be glad to give you a card. And I didn't have sign-up sheets because I thought Pat was going to bring them. So,
In that direction.
okay, yeah, that'd be great. If you want to sign the roster here, we'll be getting the names and email addresses and everything. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, are there any state reps or state legislators in the room? Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure. We do have 2 candidates for governor. I told them they can each come up. 3 candidates. 3, right? Just 3? Okay, I don't know the name of the third one, but we'll figure this out as we go. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to give each candidate a minute and a half, maybe 3 minutes max to speak. You can talk very briefly about your campaign, just introduce yourself, tell people why you're running, and then talk about whether you support the Save America Act and if you would work to pass and sign legislation related to voter ID and only American citizens voting. So we are going to start first with Bobby Charles, and then we will go to David Jones, and then I will find out the name of the third candidate.
So I think we all know each other. This is like a big family, right? Just three things. First, I want to thank Jenny Beth, Scott Pressler, everybody who has put this together, and all the team who's helped make Sharon, helped make Andy, helped make this happen. The second thing is I want to say something that we sort of know. Thank you. You took the words out of my mouth. Something we sort of know, but we don't really think hard about. Election integrity is the whole enchilada. It is the whole bag of marbles. It is everything. And on the national level, we're already at great risk. It's an extraordinary risk we're at right now. To just understand, and I just talked with a few friends who know this stuff well, it got through the House. If we do not put pressure on Senator Collins and on Senator Thune to get it into reconciliation, I don't think it happens. It can be a standalone bill, but you need 60 votes. It's called cloture. You need 60 votes, and that means you need Democrats. And the only Democrat that's come with us so far, I think, is Vetterman. So we need to put, and it's not just we, it's everybody we know. We need to say, hey, stop. If you don't have oxygen today, even if you get it the day after tomorrow, it's gonna be no good, okay? We have to have election integrity or it's over. So, and then the last thing I'm gonna say is put a magnifying glass on that in Maine. If we do not have election integrity in Maine, we don't just have a passive opponent here, as David will tell you, and I respect his fight for this, and as Robert would tell you, and by the way, it's interesting that there are 3 of us here, but I think there are 8 of us total, or something like that. At the end of the day, it matters, and we know it matters. And if we don't get this right, we will lose everything. You want your taxes to be different? You want everything to be different? You don't get it unless we get integrity. And we know they're shipping illegal aliens in here and excusing them, and we have a Secretary of State who's intentionally confusing people. This is it. This is the whole ball of wax right here. We get election integrity, get it through with reconciliation, or we're going to spend the rest of our lives wishing we didn't live in a communist state.
Thank you very much, Bobby. And now David Jones. And I have the name of the third candidate, so we get back.
I would have told you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. It's good to see that so many people care. I've traveled all over the state, and the one thing I hear all the time, I say, are you going to early vote? They say, no, and I want to say, why not? We don't trust the system. We don't have integrity. We need paper ballots. God knows that's the way it has to happen. And if you don't trust your town clerk or your state to administer an election the way it has to be, then it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket. We have a Secretary of State who I've gone after on multiple occasions, telling her what you're doing is wrong. So I asked her to step down. She's going to oversee her own election. I mean, come on, really? And she's demonstrated that she's not just the Secretary of State, and she shouldn't be there, but she's an activist. She's an actress. You should never know who the Secretary of State's name is unless you look at your driver's license. But everybody knows this woman. I've sat with her in different forums. And I'll tell you, some of the things that come out of her mouth just absolutely amaze me. They would come out in public and say the things they do. So, I'm a Trump guy, always been a Trump guy. I was chairman of Making Maine Great Again. I was a super PAC I did in 2016. The only presidential super PAC over the state of Maine. I sued the state over ranked choice voting in 2019, and I created a lawsuit, put together a good group of people, and we tried like hell to stop it, but we're still here. So it's a tool that the Democrats have used to make sure Republicans don't get in power anymore. So I tell people, as much as I despise it, I think we have to utilize it and then get rid of it. Because as governor, I promise you, I would do everything I can to repeal it. So paper ballots, trustworthy elections, know the people we have behind us have integrity, and anything short of that, I'm sorry to those on fly with David Jones. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave. And now we have Robert Westways. Did I pronounce it properly?
You did it wonderfully.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here, Robert.
Let me shake your hand. I didn't do that earlier. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. As she said, my name is Robert Wessels, and I've been touring the state campaigning for over 3 years now. And the reality is, one of the topics that continuously comes up is election integrity. And I don't know about you, actually I'm quite sure I do. You probably agree with me that it is absolutely something that we have to address in Maine, and it's critical. I would absolutely sign something if voter ID came to my desk as governor, as well as citizens only. That's table stakes. Those are the basics, right? The reality is, though, that we absolutely need a Secretary of State that we can trust. We need a Secretary of State that will make the changes that need to be made. The bad news is, right, that's hard to get. The good news is, all of you can help get it, and it can be done. The reality is that our state house, our majority, Republican majority in the state house, we only lost it by 61 votes, okay, last time around. We can absolutely get those 61 votes. And we can get a majority which in the legislature altogether, and that will allow us to appoint our own Secretary of State who can turn election integrity around in the state of Maine. And that's what we need to do. So my request of you is, let's get a Republican governor, and let's help get state reps and senators in. So find your local state rep or senator and help campaign for them. My campaign has been doing that. We've campaigned with over 31 other House and Senate candidates. Said, we're going door to door anyway. Just drop your little palm cards in. We'll talk about you and try to get you across the finish line, because we need a Republican majority so we can get a new Secretary of State and get election integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is a very cool thing that you're doing by making sure that all the literature is being delivered. Okay, so thank you very much. And then are there any other candidates who are running for any other office in the room? Why don't you just very quickly give your name and your office.
I'm Frank Casella. I'm running for House District 21. It's a third of Bangor, so. Yeah.
And would you support voter ID and only citizens voting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Very good. Anyone else? All right, thank you all very much for running. Okay, so I explained the history of election integrity, and what we're going to do, I'm going to have Scott come and speak, but I do want to very quickly explain a little bit more about where things stand in the House of Representatives, and then I'll talk more building on what Scott says about a call to action. I said the House, but what I meant is the Senate. So the bill has kind of fizzled out right now in the United States Senate. There was some debate, sort of. The only person I think who genuinely debated was Susan Murkowski, Senator Murkowski from Alaska. And by that I mean she got up on the floor of the Senate and sincerely spoke about her objections to the bill based on her state and the unique geography and weather that Alaska has. So I can respect that. I wish that Democrats would get up and do that, because then we can figure out what is it that they object to and how can we fix the bill to make it get over the finish line if there are things that need to be done. So Scott and I have been to South Dakota and Arizona and Alaska. Now we're here in Maine. When we're in Alaska, we were telling people, call your senator and tell her to vote for the Save America Act, and she obviously has objections to it, so ask her to get to the point where she will vote yes. Go have negotiations, change what needs to be changed to accommodate Alaska, and get to a yes vote. Now those changes, there's a perfect fill right now. And it's ideal and it's wonderful. But we live in a representative democracy that has a legislature and a governor, and also a court system. I mean, a president, legislature. I'm looking at gubernatorial candidates right here. A legislative branch and an executive branch. And then we, of course, have the court system. That means that negotiation sometimes has to happen in the legislative side That's called legislating. That's what legislating is. And people have to talk and they have to figure out how to make a bill work. So we encourage that. Now here in this state, your senator has said she's in favor of the House-backed version of the Save America Act, which addresses voter ID and only American citizens voting in American elections. There are additional changes that President Trump wants added to the Save America Act that include things to do with mail-in voting and also transgender surgery for children, no gender surgery for children, for minors, and then also men and women's sports. I think that what she is saying is, I'm in favor of the first two things that pass the House. And the other stuff, she's not really even talking about. So she's in favor of those items. So my ask of you guys is, I appreciate the fact she's in favor of it. That is a good thing. And she's actually fundraising off of it for her campaign and her re-election, which means she's probably done polling and seen what we have seen in poll after poll after poll after poll. Over 80% of Americans, including over 70% of Democrats, this is not a fringe issue. This is a super majority issue, agree with us on the issue. And she's probably done her own polling and sees that Mainers do as well. What I want her to do, and what I would love it if you're calling her to ask her to do, is support the bill and don't just support it, lead and fight for it. And if there are people who are not at a yes, go have conversations with them, negotiate with them, and do everything you can to get them to a yes. And if it needs to be attached to reconciliation, go work to figure out how to get it attached to reconciliation. She has been in the Senate for many years. She understands the legislative process. She is not helpless in this process. She's very empowered. In fact, she's probably one of the most powerful senators in the country, and also one of the most powerful women in the country because of her position. So she understands this process. So go have the negotiations, have the conversations, try to get your colleagues to a yes. If you need to attach it to other things besides reconciliation, then attach it, introduce an amendment, and get it in there. If an amendment comes up and it isn't what you like, then amend the amendment. The point is, fight for it. Do everything you can to be a leader on it and get it passed. And so that's what I would urge you to ask her. Thank you for supporting it. Go lead and help us get it over the finish line. That's your call to action when you call her. All right, so what I'd like to ask you to do right now, before we have Scott Pressler come and speak, is have everyone stand up for just a minute, because we need a little more energy in this room. All right, we are going to do a little bit of chanting and protesting, because look, I started the Tea Party Patriots. And we are, at heart, a protest organization, and we have had to learn how to do this a lot over the years. So what I want you to do, we're going to film it. Ty here is going to kind of scan the room. Greg over here, I think, is going to get his camera out and film it. We're going to just yell, pass the Save America Act, pass the Save America Act. And we'll do that for several times, and then we're going to cheer. And then when we finish cheering, I'm going to yell Scott Pressler's name, and he's going to come up to the front. All right, and before I do all that, let me just say one amazing thing about Scott Pressler. I've gone now all over the country with him, both ends of the northern side of the country. And he loves the grassroots, and he is absolutely genuine about his affection for you guys. He loves you. And I watch him as he's taking photos. He listens to everyone. He knows their name. He is committed to making this country great again, and he truly is a patriot. So I'm just so glad to be able to work side by side with him in this effort. So now, let's do it. Pass the Save America Act! 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 All right, pass the Save America Act! Pass the Save America Act! Woo!
Hello, Maine. And it's Bangor. Anyone that says Bangor, you gotta leave right now. I studied you people. I know I might look like a Democrat, but I voted for Donald J. Trump 3 times. And I moved to Pennsylvania and bought a home just to vote for him in that swing state. So why are we here today? Well, first, I want to thank you, the people of Maine, because while electorally we were not able to contribute to his victory, the people of Maine helped give Donald J. Trump the popular vote of the United States of America. And we won it all, baby. We got the White House, we got the House, we won the Senate, we won Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia. We won every swing state. Yet, here we are, a month and a half in, and we are 6 months away from one of the most important midterm elections, and we have yet to pass legislation that 84% of Americans agree with. When have Americans agreed on 84% of anything? And so I'm a little worried because what I hear from our beautiful voters is, Scott, why should I come out and vote when I did everything in my power to help elect the very majority that we have today, and they refuse to get the job done? And it makes it hard for me to do my job. But I want people to know the last 6 months I've met with probably 100 members of Congress, 90 members of the House of Representatives, and about 10 senators. And I haven't been an agent of chaos. I try to work with people to use the carrot, not the stick, and say, will you work with us to pass the Save America Act? But Senate Majority Leader Thune. You can say it, I'm not gonna say it. You can say it, that I'm on camera. I have to keep being nice. Senate Majority Leader Thune is on a vacation right now. He's on a 9-day paid vacation. My beautiful Bangorians, when is the last time you guys have ever been on a 9-day paid vacation? You remember? And so I told Senate Majority Leader Thune, outside of his office, I was there while staff were on the inside, and I gave a message, and I said, if you don't give us what we want, then I will go to Louisiana, I will expose Senator Cassidy, and we will defeat him and replace him. And I'm here to tell you that come 2027, Senator Cassidy will no longer be a United States Senator. We are getting a massive upgrade in Louisiana. That was promise number one. Now, Cassidy voted to convict Donald J. Trump. Cassidy voted for red flag laws, which allowed judges and courts to seize firearms from law-abiding gun owners. So Cassidy was probably on his way out, thanks to the beautiful people of Louisiana, who, by the way, closed their primary, which I hope that we do in all 50 states, because Democrats should not be choosing Republican candidates in primaries. Number two, I don't just wear the boots for aesthetic. I got my start in Texas in 2014, helping to elect now Governor Greg Abbott. And I told Senate Majority Leader Thune and his staff, if you don't give us the Save America Act, I am going to Texas, and we are going to defeat John Cornyn. And I'm here to tell you that Attorney General Ken Paxton won 252 of 254 counties and is our Republican Texas Senate nominee. Now, here we are in Maine. And I want to be respectful, I want to be professional, I want to keep my tonality very neutral if possible. We have a beautiful senator in this state by the name of Senator Susan Collins. She is up for re-election this November, is she not? And I think it's very fair to say that, respectfully, she's in the fight of her life to keep her seat. We have a well-funded opponent that right now is polling ahead of our incumbent Republican senator. I don't want to lose that seat. I don't think you guys do either. However, it is important that senators never feel that they cannot be held accountable by the very voters that put those people into office. And I'm certain that every single person in this room wants photo voter ID. Am I right? Every voter in this room wants proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. And women, I have to ask you, because the Democrats, oh my gosh, the Democrats think we're so dumb. Bless their hearts. The Democrats, they think women are incapable of getting IDs and that they cannot change their names. Ladies, do you know where your birth certificate is? Yes! Ladies, do you know where your marriage certificate is? Yes! Ladies, is there anything that will prohibit or inhibit you from voting upon the passage of the Save America Act? No! Okay, good job. I was worried for a second, but I was testing if you were active listeners. And thankfully, this is not a group of Democrats who listened and you said, oh, that was the correct answer. Whew. Okay. And it's so funny, the Democrats, they don't want fair elections because they know if we secured our elections and had a photo ID and proof of citizenship, it's very unlikely that the Democrats would ever gain power ever again. And this isn't a red or blue issue. This is a fairness issue. This is an equity issue. This is about equality, right? Did you know in North Carolina, so there are 4 people that did not vote to attach the Save America Act to the budget reconciliation. Those people are Mitch McConnell out of Kentucky. Bless his heart. Murkowski out of Alaska. Tom Tillis out of North Carolina. And a beautiful senator out of Maine, Susan Collins, voted no to attaching the Save America Act to budget reconciliation. Did you know in North Carolina, they just found 34,000 dead voters on the voter rolls? Tom Tillis's office said that there's no fraud in North Carolina and that we don't need the Save America Act. Well, the state board says different. 34,000. Do you think that's a federal election? Do you think that's potentially a gubernatorial election? Do you think that's state representative, state senate, perhaps city council elections? Yes. We are even finding illegal aliens on the voter rolls in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, this is heavily an election integrity event, and I know some of you might be like, Scott, why you push early voting? So I do want to explain myself to you for a moment, if that's okay. In 2022, we had a debacle of a 2022 election. Do you guys remember what happened in the great state 48 in Arizona? What happened to Kerry Lake? Who should be governor right now? What happened? Shout it out. The machines had errors on what day, my friends?
Election.
When do Republicans vote? Election. In Nevada, it snowed on election day. We lost an election by 8,000 votes. 150,000 registered Nevada Republicans did not vote. 150. And every voter in Nevada is mailed a ballot. We have ballot harvesting in Nevada. When do Republicans vote on the very day that it snowed? Election day. In Pennsylvania, Luzerne County, they ran out of paper ballots. On what day? When do Republicans vote? If I'm a Democrat operative here in Bangor, I'm making sure because I don't want anyone attacking me, throwing tomatoes. Then all I have to do is cause mischief for 12 hours and I can steal an election because I know you. I know when you're going to vote. I only have to have the machines have errors on one day. I only have to have the electricity go out on one day. I only have to run out of paper ballots on one day. I only have to have a pipe burst for one day. I only have to put ballots into a third tertiary box on one day. And that's how we lost 2020. We lost Arizona by 10,000 votes, Georgia by 20,000 votes, Wisconsin by 20,000 votes, Pennsylvania by 80,000 votes. And so I created early vote action in response to the 2020 election. And I said Joe Biden is going to get reelected unless we change the way that we vote. So I moved to Pennsylvania, hired 87 staff, registered 50,000 voters across 67 counties, and we were able to flip a Senate seat, Dave McCormick, and he won by 15,000 votes, defeating an entrenched incumbent Democrat senator, becoming our 53rd Senate seat. Did you know 650,000 people voted early or by mail for Senator Dave McCormick? 650,000 who won by 15,000 votes. You're logical and rational people, I hope. Can you think for a second, knowing that we are truckers, we are farmers, we are family and business people, we are moms and dads, we are firefighters and police officers and pilots, an airline. Is it possible that had we not gotten 650,000 people to vote early or vote by mail, that we could have lost the election that was won by a mere 15,000 votes? Does that sound pretty rational? So that's my explanation to our beautiful base, that until we have the power to change the law, we are gonna fight fire with a gosh darn flamethrower. And if they are gonna ballot harvest, then where legal and applicable, we are going to. If they are gonna vote early, then we are gonna vote early. If they are gonna vote absentee, then we are gonna vote absentee. And that is how we are gonna flip Maine's 2nd congressional district from blue to red this November. And yes, former, future Congressman Golden, we are coming for your seat, and I hope that former Governor LePage crushes that election and turns it Republican. Tidbit, you guys can fact check me on this. In 2014, when I was trying to get into politics, did you know of 20 people that I applied to work for saying I would move to a state, Governor Paul LePage was one of those back in 2014. So even back a decade ago, I had my eyes on you, my beautiful Bangorians, my Maine. What do you guys call yourselves? That's it? You don't have like a special Bangor? Maniac. Maniac? Ooh. You like that. Okay. Embrace it, right? Embrace it. And so I'm here to help you guys get the job done. Because you know what? The Democrats, they want to talk gerrymandering. There are a total of 0 seats held by Republicans in New England. And you know what? This November, on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026, that is going to change. And Maine is going to lead the way right here in Maine's 2nd congressional district. No, that wasn't high energy enough. We're going to do it again. Maine is going to lead the way in Maine's 2nd congressional district. That is the fire that I want. And look, until we secure our elections, I see a dog in the back of the room. According to that dog could get red. No, I didn't say that. I would never say that. And so I'm going to ask something of y'all because I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you for taking your time on a Sunday that you could be spending time with your families or doing anything else. Thank you for being here. But I want you to please turn this into action. Number one, please connect with our wonderful Sherry here over with the EIN. And yes, she was with the RNC. She was with the Maine GOP. So Sharon is going to know everyone and be able to connect you locally. Please meet with her before you leave today. And I want you to also call Senator Susan Collins' office. And remember, everything that I've said today, I hope that you see that I'm trying to be as respectful and a consummate professional. I want you to call her office and say, listen, I voted for you. I've helped to re-elect you. I've helped to court voters for you in this important swing state of Maine. And truthfully, while we have the majority, this is your moment that with 84% approval, this will be a big win, and you will be lauded as a heroine, truly, for our country by passing the Save America Act. So please, don't dismiss us. Don't defy the will of Mainers, maniacs that put you into office. And may I get your commitment that each of you truthfully will call repetitively her office? Will you guys do that? Thank you. I'm a nice guy. They think like I'm so mean. And no, I actually want to work with these people for the benefit of the country. Hello, a noble ideal. And if I ever get elected into the Senate, I promise you, I will not be taking 9-day paid vacations. So where do we move forward? Well, I've heard that we don't have voter ID here in the beautiful state of Maine. We don't have proof of citizenship right here in the state of Maine. And so we have people that are running for state representative, and I think we do have representatives here. I'm going to ask your representative to either sponsor or co-sponsor legislation that while we're providing for federal Save America, let's get the Save Maine Act at the state level as well. And if enough people with 84% of support, Democrats are coming over on this, independents are coming over on this, we can put enough pressure for the Maine legislature to help secure our elections at the state level. And I make a promise, Sharon, because I want people to be really happy about what's happening right now. Are you guys watching what's with Spencer Pratt over in St. Louis? Did you know California has an initiative on the ballot thanks to Representative Carl DeMaio? They have voter ID on the ballot this November in California. And I do believe it will pass. And when it passes, we will have voter ID in California going into the 2028 presidential election. That is huge. In Nevada, they have the second round of voter ID on the ballot. Did you know that every county in Nevada in 2024, including Clark County, which is Las Vegas, Nevada, voted 73% for voter ID? When it passes this November, we will have voter ID in Nevada for the 2028 presidential election. And Miss Sharon, see, when I come up north, I don't know what happens to me. I get like the New England Boston. If anyone says park the car, I'll instantly, no, we're not gonna go there. I make a promise, Miss Sharon, that if and when you guys launch another initiative to get voter ID on the ballot here in Maine, I promise to help you. I promise to come back to Maine. I promise to mark the next position. I promise to work with the grassroots. Because the same way that you guys are excited about what's happening on the West Coast, we need to bring that energy and excitement here to the East Coast and all of New England. And just know we're not going anywhere. We are not resting on our laurels, and Trump deserves 4 years in office. He does not deserve to be a 2-year president. He does not deserve to have really 4 years stolen from him like they did in the first election. I want to remind you briefly for a moment what happened in 2018. The Democrats won the midterm elections, and they elected the squad into power. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley, and all of these shameful Democrats, radical extremists, were elected into power? Are we, the good people that just delivered a popular vote victory, going to allow the Democrats to win this November? Are you going to turn out in big, beautiful numbers to make sure that Donald J. Trump is a 4-year president? Are you going to flip Maine's 2nd congressional district from blue to red? And last, because I know we have our beautiful young Republicans here, shameless plug. And it did, oh, by the way, I just got elected to office. Did you guys hear about that? So, I ran for state committee for my local county. So I live in Beaver County in Pennsylvania. Nobody knows where that is. And it's above Pittsburgh. I put my name on the ballot because I was like, if Senate Majority Leader Thune is not going to lead, then who am I to shout at the clouds without providing a solution to problems? I decided to be the solution, put my name on the ballot. And out of 5 people, I was the top vote getter with 7,853 votes. They elected a long-haired cowboy. And I am now an author. So, and you guys may know this guy. Okay, so you know what the coolest thing ever was? I started off as a dog walker. I started off with very, very humble beginnings. And the coolest thing for me is after we together as a family elected Donald J. Trump, I got a phone call and they said, do you want to go to the White House? And I was like, is the sky blue? Like, is Maine beautiful? Like, duh, I'm going. And we were there with J.D. Vance in the Roosevelt room, and in comes waltzing Donald J. Trump, and he's like, I just had a phone call with NATO. I told him I'm not giving him anything. JD, when you're done, send them in, send them in. So we all got to go into the Oval Office with Donald J. Trump and JD Vance. He gave us a challenge coin. I got a White House pen, which I still haven't used. I don't think I'll ever use it. And that's the front of my book. I started off as a dog walker in the doghouse. And through hard work, through determination, and dare I say persistence, I was able to go to the White House. And I hope that everybody that sees this, I hope especially young people that are here, I hope that all of you are encouraged to know each of you matters. Each of you individually can do your part. And I believe that collectively together, if 330 million Americans decided to positively make changes in our country, man, we could do something very special here in the United States of America. And that's why Jenny Beth and I are here. And we are here to help save America by passing the Save America Act. I want you to join me in giving our fearless leader, chairwoman of the Tea Party Patriots, Jenny Beth Martin, a raucous applause.
So we do have state representatives here, and we've got the minority leader for the Senate, Trace Stewart, who's going to come up and speak for a couple of minutes. And then we also have Reagan Paul, who is a state rep, and and she's going to speak as well. So Reagan, why don't you come up first, and then we'll have Tripp. Oh, too bad. Well, got too much.
Well, thank you all for being here today. It's lovely. I see so many people in this room I know, and so gubernatorial candidates, thank you for coming down. First of all, Scott, I wore my boots for you, so around here. Thank you. So inspiration right there. And this is such an issue of passion for me. I've introduced a voter ID bill both terms in the legislature, and I actually got Senator Stewart to co-sponsor both of them as well. It's a special support. And now let's officially warm up the crowd enough. I'm gonna hand it off to Senator.
Well, first off, thanks for the opportunity to just share a couple words, and well done to Representative Paul over here. I'm a little bit biased, but I think she's one of the fiercest fighters that you folks have advocating for you under the dome of the State House, and you're all very blessed to have her there serving in the capacity that she is. So, Scott, thank you very much for coming to Maine. Appreciate your willingness to engage in our fight here. Appreciate all the stakeholders, everybody, and Sharon, great to see you, who are here to engage in this really important fight. And I just want to set the record straight on a couple of things, and maybe didn't make a ton of sense if you're sitting on the outside. You're hearing things like 84% of people agree with this idea, and they do. But when you have a Secretary of State like Shenna Bellows, who's now running for governor, seeking a promotion, because she's done her job so coolly, in fact, that she thinks that she deserves that, who is manipulating the entire democratic process. The thing that blows my mind the most is when you hear these people talk about defending democracy. Well, they are systematically removing candidates who disagree with them and hold different views than they do from the ballot, which she attempted to do until the court struck her down. Or you hear, or you see, and you watch that same individual remove from the ballot, or remove an opportunity for the public to weigh in on something as broadly supported as preventing men from playing girls' sports.
Yep.
Not a very radical idea, if I do say so myself. However, that same individual removed, and has attempted to, at least until the court, and I am optimistic the court's going to turn around that process, but removing that opportunity for you all to engage in that. And of course, we know where the legislature is right now. We're working very hard, both in the House and the Senate. There's 3 seats in both chambers that separate us from being able to just pass these things outright instead of having to resort to putting them on the ballot. And yet then you have the manipulation that occurs and the downright corruption that occurs within state government to remove those opportunities for you all to engage directly in those. And ultimately, again, it's the same individual who's running for governor, and is the same individual who completely manipulated the verbiage around that question of whether or not we want to do something that 84% of the country agrees with. That is why the referendum question failed. It is not because people don't think that you ought to show an ID when you go engage in one of the most important things that you will do as a society. Sure, you need it to go buy booze or cigarettes in the state of Maine, but not to determine who's going to lead us. It's not a radical position. It's not a crazy idea. It is, however, a big problem for those that utilize that system in ways that are not advantageous for our interests and promoting the ideas that we all know make sense, are rooted in our Constitution, and are ultimately what the people want to see happen with the future of our state. So, don't be misled in the state of Maine where we have these weird things happen because of corrupt politicians. It's exactly that. And so thank you to Scott for wading into this fight and putting the spotlight on our state. And one of these days, I'm very much looking forward to when I'll be able to turn on the news and see Maine in the headlines for something that's positive. That is yet to be the case. However, it will happen someday. I'm optimistic in that, and we will continue to fight for that. Scott is absolutely correct. I think, personally, the future of our country is going to be determined right here in the state of Maine here. I believe very much that the balance of power in the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate will be dictated by what happens here in the state of Maine. It is highly likely that in both of those chambers, the results will be with a 1 or 2 seat margin. Paul LePage has to be elected to the United States House of Representatives. Susan Collins has to be reelected to the United States Senate. Period, all stop. And we have to get, ideally, one of these gentlemen that's in the room here today, there's several candidates who are here running for governor. We need a Republican governor. Our job in the legislature is astronomically more difficult without a chief executive who is a Republican. We need a Republican governor. We will continue to press, we will continue to fight, we will continue to push back on everything that you have seen play out here in the last few years in the state of Maine. We cannot do it without you. So to echo what Scott said a minute ago, thank you for being here. And if you are willing to spend some of your Sunday here with us, listening to some politicians, and congrats, Scott, on now being a politician officially. Welcome to the club, my friend. Listen to a bunch of politicians talk. Take one more step. Engage in the fight. Go door to door. help with your local committee. Do something to advance the cause at the level that you could each and every one of you impact. This is very. I played football as a scorer when I was younger. Football and politics are incredibly similar. Full contact team sports. Okay? They're also games of inches. We need to go get a little inch today.
Yep.
That adds up into yards, that adds up to first downs, that adds up to points on the board every single day. And if each one of you goes out and gets that inch today, we're going to be moving the ball down the field in incredible ways. And we're going to be victorious when we get to November. So as you're doing that, also, don't hesitate to engage with the candidates themselves. Ask them the hard questions. Support them, right? And encourage them to do what needs to be done. That is true at every single level, whether it's helping somebody run for dog catcher or helping somebody run for president of the United States. Do not shy away from engaging with them and sharing with them what you believe, what you feel, what you think. That's incredibly helpful, and I'm sure Reagan could attest to this too, that it is helpful for us to know where you are all at, so that when we get to Augusta in the State House or to the United States Congress or town council, it doesn't matter. If you know where the heart of your constituency is, you will be astronomically better at your job. So don't ever be afraid to engage with these people. They're just human beings too, I promise. I promise. They want to hear from you. They need to hear from you. And most importantly, they need your help. We need your help. We all need your help. And we are incredibly grateful and blessed to have that, and we don't take that for granted. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for all the work that you have already done, that you will no doubt continue to do as we press on here to get to November. There are so many things that you can do with a Republican governor, Republican legislature, maintaining control of the United States House, the United States Senate. We need your help to get there. We can't do it without you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking time out of your day to be here, Trey and Reagan. We really appreciate that. Okay, so when Scott and I were in Arizona, in Phoenix, it was a Saturday evening, we were speaking. It was really late in the afternoon, but on the East Coast, it was in the evening. And, they're 3 hours behind us. So while Scott was speaking, I got an alert on my phone and learned that there had been yet another assassination attempt on the President of the United States. And I had to get up after Scott and be the bearer of that news to the audience. And it really shifted a few things for me and how determined I am to continue working on this piece of legislation. You see, I talked about our bus tour that we did last year. The day that we finished a bus tour, it was September 10th. Cold, rainy day in Washington, D.C. Kind of like yesterday was in Portland. I get it. You're from Maine. You probably did not think it was cold. But I'm from Georgia and Florida, and it was cold. So anyway, I went back. It was raining. We were outside on the hill. Went back to my hotel room, took a quick shower, and got out and learned that Charlie Kirk had been assassinated. I met Charlie Kirk when he was 19 years old. He was a friend of mine. I've known him for years. And that was a terrible, terrible day, of course, for all of us. And that was on top of already what we had seen with multiple assassination attempts on President Trump. During the bus tour that we did last year, we had protesters outside of every single event that we did. But we've never had that before. We usually do grassroots type events like this, and every once in a while we might have counter protesters, but nothing like what we saw last year. So, and our bus was vandalized in Arizona, and anyway, it was just a mess. So leading up to that, our whole team who had been on the road was a little bit heightened as far as security goes. And then that happened with Charlie. And I thought about that day, how fearless Charlie was and how he worked so hard just to have conversations with people who disagree with him. And then when the being in Arizona, just a few miles from the Turning Point office, having to give that news to an audience in Arizona about another assassination attempt, it just hit everyone very hard. Here's the thing. President Trump, after he was, let's go back even further. In 2020, after all of the malfeasance with the election in 2020, President Trump could have just said, I've been a good sport, and just said, oh, well, Joe Biden, congratulations, and walked off into the sunset and never had done anything else. And instead, he listened to all of us, and I'm from Georgia. I worked on President Trump's legal team in Georgia. I am not an attorney, but I'm really good at organizing people. So all the complaints that went into the helpline, combined with volunteer attorneys, connected them together. They created affidavits, sworn statements under penalty of perjury that were used in President Trump's lawsuit in Georgia. And similar things were happening in Arizona, where Charlie was, and he and I were in touch almost every day during that process, in Wisconsin and Nevada and Pennsylvania and Michigan. President Trump still fought during that time. And he fought, of course he fought a little bit. It was for himself, of course, because he was a candidate. But it was way more than just fighting for himself. He was fighting on behalf of all of us who voted for him, who felt like our vote had been canceled out by cheating, and if not outright cheating, by legitimate issues related to floating around mail-in ballots and violations of state law and everything else that went on. And he fought it. And he didn't have to do that, but he did. And I think that he did it because he cared about us, and he cared about the future of our country. Then he's no longer in office, and he could have gone off into the sunset and built a presidential library. But he did not. He stayed engaged, and he ran for office again. So they indicted him in Fulton County, Georgia, and prosecuted him in New York, and indicted friends of mine. Mike Roman is from Pennsylvania. He was indicted, and he worked on the campaign in 2020. He was indicted in Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, I think Michigan, and maybe even Nevada. But definitely the first three states I named. Michigan's been resolved. Thankfully, Georgia is resolved and over now. Arizona is languishing in the courts, and he's actually still facing very real time in Wisconsin. John Eastman was indicted in multiple places. Mark Meadows, President Trump's former chief of staff, indicted in multiple places. John Eastman was disbarred in the state of California. I'm pretty sure Mike Roman lost his house, and he's still fighting, and he still loves this country. And President Trump understood that, and he knows that there were a lot of people who were wrapped up in all of this stuff that happened with him, which is why he's trying to deal with the weaponization fund. He's trying to help make those people whole where the government has been weaponized against citizens because they supported a president of the United States. So he kept fighting, and then Butler, Pennsylvania happened, which Scott was there that day, I think. Yes, Scott was there that day. And he gets shot, literally shot, and he stands up and he yells, fight, fight, fight. And he could have walked away then. I mean, he didn't have to stand up and yell, fight. He could have walked away right that moment, and he didn't, because he loves this country and he's fighting for this country. And he gets reelected against all odds. And he has a very clear agenda for what he wants to do for this country. Secure the border, seal the border, deport the people who entered the country illegally, especially the ones committing heinous, violent crimes. Get the economy back on the right track. He prevented the largest tax increase in American history, solidified the largest tax decrease in American history. At the federal level, he got rid of tax on tips, tax on overtime, tax on Social Security. And he wants to make sure that our elections are secure. And We all want that. And before we can fight all these other issues and before we can worry about who is elected and whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, as Americans, we all have to understand that when we go cast our ballot, we can trust the outcome of the election. It is essential to the foundation of our country. If we cannot trust the outcome of our election, then we begin to lose the representative democracy that we have, which is a republic, if we can keep it. And he fights and fights and fights and fights. And then we see members on Capitol Hill, in both chambers, but much less in the House of Representatives. Man, Speaker Mike Johnson, with this teeny tiny, like 1 vote majority in the House of Representatives, over and over and over and over, he finds a way to get the job done. And I appreciate that about him and about the members of the House. And some of these guys, they're much more moderate than I am, a House Freedom Caucus type person. They are much more moderate than that, but they are finding a way to legislate and get the job done and get the bill passed and get over to the Senate. And they are fighting for President Trump's agenda because they understand that we elected President Trump and we don't want just executive orders. We want law that is sustaining and long-lasting. And it comes over to the Senate, and they think that if they work hard or they try, that's good enough for us. And that's what Leader Thune is saying right now. Well, we tried to get the Save America Act passed. We tried, we worked hard. I gave a lot of floor speeches. Of course you did. You're the leader. When you speak and you mention the Save America Act, it's a speech. You're the leader. You get to speak all the time. I don't want just hot air. I don't want just trying. I think of what Yoda from Star Wars said. It is try not, do or do not. There is no try. And I want them to do. I want them to get it done. And I know all of you do as well. And it's so important because we may never have this opportunity again. If we lose either chamber, and oh, heaven help our country, if we lose both chambers in the fall, it will be 2019 and 2020 all over again, and our country cannot handle that. We cannot go through more impeachments, absolutely not. But more than that, we can't have an insecure border, a terrible stalled economy, a Congress that doesn't want to do anything except investigate a president who is just trying to make the country better for all Americans. So when we say we want you to call Senator Collins, we want you to do that, and I'm saying fight and lead. I'm urging you to urge her to do that because that is what she is capable of doing. You can't. You can be here and you can do everything you can in your own position, and you have power as an individual voter in this country. But she has power as a senator right now, and we need her to wield that power and do everything she can to help get it passed. And that's what I'm asking you to do. And you're going to get up every day between now and November, and you're going to think about this country, and you're going to be worried about the country and excited about the country and have all sorts of emotions about the country. What we have to do is make sure that we continue to do what President Trump did and what he continues to do every single day. And we have to fight, fight, fight for America. And that is what I'm asking you to do. And I know each of you are going to do it. And we're going to make these calls and we are going to get it done. Thank you so much. And now we're going to do questions and answers. So if somebody outside can make sure Scott, we're ready for Q&A. All right, so we can do Q&A for about 15, maybe 20 minutes, and then we'll end and we're going to do photos. So if you have a question, raise your hand and I will call on you. And Scott is taking care of something, but he'll be right in here. So who has a question or comment for us? Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am.
So, early voting.
I agree. I love voting days. How do I know that if I vote early, it's going to not be interrupted? Or how do I know that there's not going to be stealing of those votes with our lovely state of Maine? That everything sees yet so great for it.
Sure. Well, I'll speak to my seat and then let Shara and where Frank tap. But I'll explain how it works in Pennsylvania, and I don't know if it's similar to your state and Frank. So for our vote by mail, you provide your email, and every step through the process, they email you. So when I applied, I got an email saying, okay, you're going to get your mail-in ballot. When it was mailed to me, it sent me an email. And when I turned in my mail-in ballot in person to my elections office, I didn't mail it. I returned it in person. Within 3 minutes, they had scanned the barcode on my ballot, and it said, received back at the office. So I want to be clear that I practice what I preach, and for my own election, I voted for myself by vote by mail early. I had enough confidence in the system that I did the very thing that I'm asking from all of y'all. And I would just say that, again, with all of the things that can go wrong on election day, I would argue any mitigating factor to try to offset any machinations they may have. That's why I would say if you're hesitant on mailing it, turn it in person. Don't put it into a Dropbox. Don't put it into the USPS. Deliver to an elections office from your hands to their hands. But Frank, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the email. All right, don't come on.
No, we don't have talking.
I don't think we had an email, but it is registered that your ballot was received by the town clerk. So you can find out if your ballot was received. Now, I personally would not recommend mailing it. I would not recommend putting in ballot boxes. I did an inspection of ballot boxes in my county and that county. I found, I'll show you the picture later if you ever want to see it. I could put my hand through one of the ballot boxes all the way to the bottom of the ballot box. So this is about another town. There was a ballot box right in City Hall, and the clerk denied that that's the ballot box. I said, well, it says absentee ballot box. Oh, no, it's down at the firehouse. Okay, so, I said, well, are anybody putting ballots in there? Oh, everybody in town knows. Well, I talked to somebody who used to be a state representative, and he didn't even know. He lives in that town, and he didn't even know that, that is not the ballot box anymore. They've moved the location down to the firehouse. So, but you can check on it. You can check online and see if your ballot was received. So I think that part of it's safe. I would just drop it off at the clerk's office. I know that's the safest bet.
And then Sharon, could you quickly also address it?
Thank you. And it's Frank, right?
Yes.
So the only thing I would say is the best way to ensure that your ballot is cast by you is by doing it in person with your town clerk during the absentee period. Right. Do it in person with your clerk. You can track the ballot. There is a tracking system that works through the Secretary of State's system where you can see how it goes, but we know sometimes the clerk doesn't check that box off the day that you do it. Okay, I was former town clerk, so I can tell you necessarily everything gets done. But the best way to secure that your ballot is cast by you is to do it early in person with your town clerk. Don't put it in the mail. Don't ask for it online. Just go see your clerk, have that relationship with your clerk, and it's also the best way to start the relationship with your clerk, which then will help you engage with them and be an advocate with that clerk in the future as well. So start that relationship by casting a vote with them, ask them questions about the ballot process, ask them about how things go. And the last thing I want for any of you to do is get to election day and find out that somebody else has cast a ballot. Because what you need to know is that if you get to election day and somebody else has cast a ballot, in the state of Maine, you can start processing ballots as soon as 7 days prior to election day. So if your ballot was cast by somebody else other than you, and they processed it, when you go to vote in person, you'll be voting provisional, which means that your ballot will be a provisional ballot. And so the best way to secure that your ballot is voted by you is to do it in person with your town clerk as soon as possible.
And let's unpack that for a second. So if you listen very carefully, remember in 2020, we heard a whole bunch of anecdotal stories where they were like, Scott, I waited until election day to vote. And when I went to vote, they told me that I had already voted. And so think about it. If y'all request an absentee ballot and you have that on you, and sure, you wait to turn it in person, let's say that you're taking your absentee ballot in and they go, wait a second, you already voted. but how could I have voted if I have my absentee ballot right here? That allows for EI people to have evidence as opposed to anecdotal, no documentary proof, or it's just their word as the elections office versus our word. Having that absentee ballot is actually a layer of election integrity, that you have your proof that you requested your ballot, it got to you. There's no way nobody else should have been able to vote for you. And even in Pennsylvania, I don't want to confuse you, but we have something even where you can surrender it on election day, they'll spoil it, and you can vote in person. Again, we have that as a layer of protection. And so I hope that helps to clear things up. But notice what you guys are doing, the turning it in person, is the same thing we do in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as well, and in states like Arizona.
And in Georgia.
And in Georgia.
We don't have mass mail out of ballots, you have to request it, but we urge people to return it in person.
Oh, one more thing.
VIP, D1 or just one? VIP 1, vote in person, day 1.
And one last thing, how many of y'all have gotten horrible mailers from election people or text messages to your phone? If you vote and you vote early, your mailers will no longer come and your text messages will no longer.
Yeah, it saves the campaigns of your choice, money.
Did I just win you over?
And you won't get phone calls too, saying go to.
And you won't get phone calls. Now you'll also save Governor LePage money because he won't have to work to get y'all to vote because you've already voted, and he can work on low propensity, targeted, micro-targeted Republicans that we need in order to win. So I hope that sells you.
Yes, sir.
How early can we vote?
How early, Chris? 30 days early.
Or whenever the town clerk gets the ballot.
Right now.
Or whenever the town clerk gets the ballots.
Yeah.
You asked a question. Yes, ma'am.
What I find, especially in rural settings, is conservatives just really want to be left alone. They don't want to impose their beliefs on anyone. They just want to take care of their properties and their houses, their families, their animals. But what do you think is the most important thing you can say to these people that will motivate them to go beyond just their world view, to see how them just living a nice life and being responsible isn't enough anymore in terms of their action or inaction?
I would say, well, think of it for a second. Y'all are here today for one reason or another, and perhaps without sounding egotistical, you've been inspired in some part by Jenny or myself. You're here because you see a reflection of the work that we're doing and you want to be a part of that. I would say in your local community, it is of the utmost importance for you to be that local inspiration that you were just working so hard. You're trying to show people how valuable the state of Maine is and our country and our values and our tradition, that they're going to go, wow, that Kathleen is working so hard. I got to come out and vote. I can't let her down. And I'd say, don't be afraid to share your story when you're at the door. Don't just be, I need your vote. Look, I'm going to speak for somebody in this room. You're a grandfather or grandmother of 5 grandbabies. You're spending your time as a retiree knocking on doors because you care about the future of your grandbabies and you hope that they, the voter, will come out and support their future families as well. So don't be afraid to pull from personal experience because vulnerability is so relatable. And I would argue that is a great way to show people how much you care. Liv, I don't have to be here. And in fact, Jenny's not getting paid to be here. I'm not getting paid to be here. Nobody gave us a dime. We're doing this because we love our country. And we hope that you guys will do the same within your work community.
Well, thank you for doing it.
How long have you been hiking? A week? Okay, all right. Okay, so welcome to the Club of Actors.
Wait, I think that deserves a round of applause.
So what you will find is I think there are going to be two things I want to say to you. First, what you'll find is that you and I, and all of us in this room are weird, and we are completely in the minority of Americans. Most people do not come and spend a beautiful Sunday afternoon hanging out talking about politics. They go do other stuff with their family, and that's fine. It's okay, because it just takes a handful of dedicated people what is the quote from Samuel Adams? Ready to spread the brush fire of freedom across the country. I know I'm totally messing it up with Sam Adams, who started the Tea Party movement, the original one, has a great quote about that. The point is, it doesn't take a lot of people. It takes people who are dedicated and determined and want to hold on to liberty to be able to keep liberty. And you're helping make that happen. And everyone in this room is helping make it happen. And there are people who are not here today, but who would be here if, like, they care enough, they are active, that just something prevented them from being here on this particular day. So you're not in a teeny tiny minority, but you're in we're a small group of people who do this kind of thing. It's just, and on the left, it's the same way. They have people who show up and they probably sit there going, if only we had 3 times this many people and 10 times, because on either side, it's just sort of how that works. And it ebbs and flows, and each side will have more from time to time. And the other thing is this. You love this country so much, and you are so worried about what's going to happen next in this country that you're here today. And I would imagine it might keep you up at night. It might prevent you from falling asleep, because you see what's happening. You see the craziness that's going on in the schools. You see the harm that it's doing to our children. You wonder what might happen next, what assassination attempt is going to be next. Will it be successful? And you pray it isn't, but it worries you and it nags at you. And you love our country so much. Don't let the concern that motivates you overwhelm you. Hold on to that, like as the day goes on, it sometimes feels more desperate. In the morning, though, you wake up and you're willing to get up and fight for our country. And so when the afternoon comes and you're just overwhelmed with all the negative news, hold on to what got you up in the morning and kept you fighting. That is one of the things I have had to do, because sometimes I'll just go down really dark places because I love the country so much. I'm like, what if this happens? And if this happens? And if this happens? And it's too much. And I just go, okay, but I got up and I believe in better. I have faith in America's future, and I'm going to keep fighting for it. And that's what you have to do as well. And you're doing it, and you're here, and it's amazing. So don't be discouraged if more people aren't here. Just do everything you can to bring a couple more people, and then a couple more people after that, and keep building it. And a small snowball eventually turns into massive, massive change.
Well, let's go over action items for a second. Okay, so I'm just gonna assign this to you if it's okay, Sharon. Frank. So I just went to gunshowtrader.com. You guys have 3 upcoming gun shows before the November election. One for Top Sham, June 20th and 21st. You have one.
Tom 6.
At least I was cute when I said it. I guess did I get that one free? All 10 tops. I got you added. So we have upcoming gun shows. A gun show, you're shooting fish in the barrel. I would say connect with Frank before you leave. Connect with Sharon. Also, Mr. Paul Mills, can you raise your hand about as well? Paul also has done some work for the former governor to help flip our 2nd congressional. And he said that he is a pastor, Pastor Graves, that allows voter registration 4 times in his church. I would say of you guys, and that's a huge deal. Now, why is it a big deal? 40% of hunters aren't registered to vote. 40. There are a lot of maniacs that are not registered. If you guys want to make an actual difference, let's get our gun community registered. 30% of Christians are not registered to vote. In Texas, Tallarico, the Democrat, there's a video of him I just posted today saying that God is non-binary.
Yes.
Bless the sparks. I want you guys to literally send that video to your pastor, to whoever you get your faith services from, and say, look at what's even happened in Texas that's going to be coming here to Maine. Let's get our faith community registered. Let's get our gun owners registered. So I'm going to put that on all of y'all's hearts, and hopefully we can, Frank, do some voter registration. And say it again. Thompson? Just this Thompson. So look at that. Indie eyes are so weird. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Last question.
Next question. Yes, ma'am. I love your hat.
So how soon before this was be enacted?
All right. So it all depends on what is enacted and when. But here's what I think can realistically happen this year. There are two things that I think can happen this year. First, if we can get voter ID passed by the end of July, all right, just bear with me. I'm going to give you just a little bit of background and ins and outs of what's going to happen in Congress over the next few weeks. They're out of session. The Senate comes back tomorrow. The House comes back the next day. They will take probably a week off again for July 4th. Then at the end of July, they leave. And they're gone the entire month of August, and the first week or maybe even two is September. But in September, they must pass funding because the government runs out of funding on September 30th, and the new fiscal year starts on October 1st. So they'll slide back into town, pass some sort of funding resolution. They have passed appropriation bills, but we just need to make sure everything is funded. Then they leave again, and they won't be back till September. So
Senator Collins is the head of the Appropriations Committee, and before we make all our calls, if there's any way in the upcoming November election she can benefit from that, because I don't think she wants to get voted out by a pervy, Nazi tattoo, communist.
Marxist, that is right.
We
That's
can't
right.
do that.
You described him well.
So
You've heard the new revelation since yesterday. So you've got it.
And a fraud.
And a fraud. Okay, so I don't think that she does. I don't think any of you do. And you asked how much could be passed this year, and I didn't answer that, so I'm going to come back to that in just a second. Here's the thing. I think she is worried about her middle voters, the ones in the middle who she's going to need for the November election. Rightly, because she needs those voters. What she also has to make sure she doesn't forget about is the voters on the right, the base. She needs you to show up and vote. And if you don't show up and vote, then we're in trouble. So she has to make sure she's appealing to both. But the good news is, on this piece of legislation, 80% plus of Americans agree on it. And that means over 70% of Democrats, over 70% of independents. So all those voters she's worried about in the middle, voting in favor of only American citizens voting, and voter ID is not going to turn off those people who she's trying to win in the middle. Failing to do it may upset the base. So it's really important that she gets that done, and I urge you to remind her of that.
I'm going to.
As far as what could actually happen, I think voter ID, if passed by the end of July, can be enacted this year. Yes. Because now, they have to get it done before voting starts. Virginia starts voting first. Pennsylvania, with your early voting mail-in, ties a little bit with Virginia. Virginia starts voting 45 days before Election Day, 6 weeks before Election Day, which actually just harmed them on their referendum. It kind of came back to bite them. But 45 days. So that means we really have to have things in place by August, so they've got 6 weeks before voting starts. Before voter ID, we can train a grocery store clerk and a gas station clerk on how to, and a hotel clerk, and all sorts of other people who need ID throughout the course of our week on how to check an ID, look at the person, look at the birth date, the name, the address. I think we can train the people who are managing our ballots, who we trust to hold on to our ballot, to do the same thing. If we could train entry-level job positions, we can certainly make sure that people who run our elections can do it. The other thing is that I'm going to pitch it over to you and let you talk about the SAVE database.
Oh yeah. So why is the Save America Act so important? So it stands for the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, but that's not the real secret behind it. It would institute the SAVE database, which stands for the Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlement. So what that does is it pulls lawful SSN numbers, and any person that's already registered will then go through the SAVE database to verify that each voter is a lawful, eligible American voter. And even with all the illegal SSN numbers that were given under President Joe Biden, this is only lawful SSN numbers. Now, what I share to your Representative Reagan Paul and your senator over there is, get this. You don't have to wait for your awful Democrat Secretary of State to do the SAVE database. If you have a relationship with your county recorder, I want you to see me after, because we can independently, outside of the authority of the SOS, get your county recorders to institute the free SAVE database, which is free from the DHS right now before the November election, and put the SAVE database to test. And so let's talk about that too, Sharon, because I was just talking to DHS earlier today, and I got one of your representatives, Barbara, who we were with yesterday in Wells, Maine. They're going to start instituting it right here in the state of Maine prior to the election. So it's a big deal.
It would flag potential non-citizens as well as people who are no longer alive, deceased. Send those back to the county and the state, and then the county, in this case it'd be the county, would go and further research it, but it flags the people to be removed. And Sharon has something to say.
Well, I just wanted to ask you guys to talk about, I wanted you to talk about the SAVE database and how there's a narrative out there that is the Save America Act pass that voters would have to re-register. Can you guys just show how the SAVE Act works?
That is, anyone who tells you that voters will have to re-register is 100% false. No voter will have to re-register. You will only have to re-register is if you move or change your voter registration. But everybody that's been registered for decades, whatever, as long as you vote every single year, you're not going to be removed unless you don't vote for 2 presidential cycles according to the NDRA, and our beautiful elderly population won't have to re-register. It's only if you move, change your voter registration. So when the Democrats try to scare you into that, now you're armed with ammunition and you can be able to oppose what they're saying.
How about one more question and then we will wrap up and do photos right here in the front row.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on what you're talking about as far as like going to a gun show. So my understanding is our legislature is only blue by a very few votes. I don't live in those areas, but I can certainly go to those areas. What would be a methodology to try and target that group to make sure that we get the extra votes we need to flip those seats?
Sure, well, it's so fun. So, like right now, I have 22 staff on the ground in Pennsylvania, and we're going to every festival, fair, rodeo, gun show, wherever people are, we have to be there. Now, one thing that we do that I love is we go out and visit keys. So I don't just register everybody to vote. I don't want to register. I'll register Democrats. We have a weaning process. I have a whiteboard. Now, I set up a whiteboard that says, should biological men be banned from women's private areas? Or do you support ICE? That's a real fun one because people will run over just to make their voice heard. So the left side, do you support ICE, will have yes in red, an erasable marker, and then no in blue, red left, blue right. When they pick up the red pen, I know exactly who my person is. I pull out my voter registration form, I pull out my clipboard, I pull out whatever I want to engage with that voter because they're going to put, yes, I support ICE. When they pull out the blue pen, after they're done, I just wish them a really wonderful time, I let them go out of their way, and then that way, I'm not discriminating. I'm not choosing whether or not to give somebody a voter registration form, etc., right? And I'm only participating in my base, those of similar ideology. And guys, now I promise you, and it's so fun, people will literally stop what they're doing at a gun show, and these men will run over and put, yeah, support us, yeah, just to put it on there. And again, 40% of gun hunters, gun owners, by and large, are just not registered voters.
So it's more about public events than knocking on doors.
No, knocking on doors is critically important too. And we have a whole data range of people that are prospective unregistered voters. If you guys are serious about putting in the work, we can give you the data. But really, for you, before you leave, you connect with Frank in the Plaid. You connect with Paul. You connect with Sharon. I don't want any of y'all to... Jenny and I are going to go. We have to go to other states. Before you leave, make 5 friends. Because the Just State especially, everybody knows everybody. I assume it's such a small, tight-knit community. It's so, right? Sort of? Yeah, real. We'll get to know each other.
Scott, if I could just add one more thing. I went to a couple, now I'm from New Jersey, I moved here 4 years ago. We're not allowed to have guns in New Jersey, so I don't know much about guns. I want to learn, I'll get one eventually. But I stopped at 2 gun shops. There's a big one right on Route 1A, right down the road here. Most of you are probably familiar with it. And another one, I think it was in Ellsworth, 2 years ago during the election cycle. And I bought a bunch of the green cards. You know what the green card is? For registering the vote. They were more than happy to get those cards. And I talked to one fella, he was looking for, I don't know, he was looking for shirts or something, young guy. And I asked him if he's registered to vote. He goes, I don't think so. And, you know, I told him, I said, do you want to lose the right to lose your gun? No, not at all. Here, take a card. I handed him a card. He probably registered to vote. Okay, but, you know, the gun shops are very much in favor of that. So bring them a bunch of green cards. You can get them from your town clerk. Bunch of green cards. You're not going to register them. They're going to take the card and then go to their town clerk and register. But we need those people. Who was it, you that mentioned, what was it, 40% that aren't registered?
Yeah.
We need those people to get registered.
Although, I would say, I don't think there's anything that prohibits, correct me if I'm wrong, I actually say no. If you're able to take the card, turn it in for them, collect their data, because think about it, if somebody's not registered, there's a reason why they're not registered. If you just hand them the card, they're probably still not going to register. I take my team, we register the voter, turn it in for the voter, collect the voter's data.
I'm not sure we can do that, but yeah, we'll figure it out. We can?
Yep.
Okay. Sharon confirms we can do that. Okay.
So you can collect third-party voter registration with the green card. It's white if you register with your town clerk. It's green if you're doing it as a third party. You can collect all the data. If they're comfortable with it, they can put their 4 digits of their social security on the back, whatever they're comfortable with. And then it is their clerk's duty to then follow up with them and get the rest of the information and confirm their registration. But I would say, like Scott's saying, I mean, when you think back to like when we were doing repealing ranked choice voting,
Yeah.
you can't do a petition if you're not a registered voter. So we kept the voter registration cards with the petitions, submitted voter registration cards first, and then to fill the petitions in afterwards to make sure they're registered voters.
Yeah.
So you can request green cards from the Secretary of State's office. You can get 1,000 per person. You can go out. You can have people fill out their information. You can bring it to their town clerk. Make sure you keep it to just a few town clerks. You'll be driving all over Maine.
Yeah.
And then they will follow up. It's their duty to make sure that person gets registered to vote and that they have all the information that's pertinent for them to register to vote and they be selected. So, and the other thing I want to say really quick, just to jump in here real quick, thank you for coming today. Thank you for getting involved. Thank you for taking the first step. And I will say that one of the best things I ever got out of working in politics and working in campaigns is I made a whole bunch of friends that have the same ideas and the same morals and the same guides that I do. And they're some of my best friends still. And I lost some people along the way because of the way I thought and my values. But I gained friends that are so much better. And we became part of a huge community. And like Trey over there, Trey and I knocked doors in Aroostook and up in the county in snow and made it through. And like, I just love seeing him because it's like, oh yeah, cool. Like my friend Trey is here, you know. So just thank you, welcome, and be part of our community. And you know, we love to have you. So thank you for being here.
Anything else? If you are interested and you will work to gun shows, we'll work with Sharon and Frank to get a package together to help you do that. And if there are people who want to go register people who are likely not voted and do it in a more targeted, specific manner, we can also work with you on that. When we leave here and we go on, we are going to be sending a follow-up email out. And in that follow-up email, we will have links to the Election Integrity Network, into the Maine Election Integrity Network, and Early Vote Action, and to Tea Party Patriots Action. Most importantly for you right now, to passtheseaofamerica.com. And inside that website, it's got frequently asked questions, it's got calls to action, which we update every single week based on what we need to do next. And it has all the information you may need to stay in touch with this bill as we continue over the next several weeks working on it. And then we will link to Scott's app and our app, which can help you go door to door and reach out to voters and to text message your friends. So we'll include all of that information, and then we send it from one of our team members. And if you reply to that at any point, we actually check the email and we'll reply back to you. So feel free to use that as a way to stay in touch with us. And so what we're going to do right now is wrap up. I would love it if you would give Scott Russler a huge round of applause. And we are gonna line up right through here. Scott, we're gonna let Scott, make sure we let Scott get over there so he can do photos with you. Don't trap him where he can't get there. But he'll come and do photos, we'll talk to you, and we'll keep going. And then Sharon and Frank are here, and they can keep communicating with you, and you can make sure that you connect with them. And I thank all of you for being here today. Thank you so much.